road to 2027. In just a matter of months, Nigerians will be casting their vote for the next president, the next set of representatives in the House of Assembly, the Senate, and of course, governors. And all eyes have been on INEC to deliver fair and transparent and credible elections, with issues around voter apathy and general mistrust of the public in the apparatus of this democracy. A lot of questions are being asked on the readiness and the preparedness of INEC to deliver come 2027. Now, joining us for this conversation from our Abuja studio is the Executive Director, TAP Initiative, Martin Obono. Welcome to Rubbin Minds, Martin.
Thank you for having me once again.
Thank you for honoring our invitation. Now, I want you to cast your mind back to the 2024 governorship elections in Edo State. You came out with what you called damning, incontrovertible evidence on INEC's involvement in the Edo 2024 governorship results. Has anything materially changed since then, or have the systems that made that possible remained intact? I know we have new leadership in INEC, so are you confident that things have changed?
So I think things have become worse from where we were in 2024. In terms of the kind of processes that we had in 2024 that brought about the woeful performance of the 2024 governorship elections in Edo State. However, why I say things have become worse is because of the kind of electoral act that we currently operate with. The 2026 Electoral Act is, in its own sense, turning things back to its head, in the sense that you have Section 60, subsection 3, that has a proviso that talks about the fact that where there is a failure of electronic transmission of results from EC8A, then it should be manually imputed in a sheet of paper by the returning officer, such that it will now be used as the original result sheet or original result, and then later transmitted whenever there is network. We all know that is going to be an opportunity for people to kind of like read the results in 2027. And because there is no direct transmission of results, people will tamper with the entire process of transmission of results. Because whenever you have the middleman, the last time I was on this show, I talked about the fact that we need to work towards cutting off the middleman, which is the collation center. When I talked about cutting off the middleman, I mentioned the fact that when we take away results, manual collation of results from the collation centers and make them electronically transmitted, it takes away the middleman, the job of the middleman, and then helps us to transfer or transmit results immediately for the whole world to see, for electorates to see, and for people who are all concerned about the elections to also see the results in real time. However, what this has then created is that Section 60 subsection 3 has created is that people can hold on to results and claim that there was network failure and then manipulate that result. Then secondly is the fact that what we now see is Section 63 of the Electoral Act, where you also see that there is an opportunity for incidence form, or an opportunity where people can, a returning officer or an election officer can decide that he needs to use any kind of result sheet, any kind of sheet, regardless of whether it's from EC8A, to compute or take results. With that, it already takes away the security forms or the security details that are usually accompanied with electoral materials. So with that, you should expect that what happened in Edo State, despite the fact that there was presence of security in those electoral materials, INEC still found a way of rigging the elections for the governor of Edo State at the time, this is going to be worse. So what we are looking out for is that, what we're basically saying is that if care is not taken, this election is going to be worse than any of the elections that we have seen, and the process may also become worse than what we saw in 2007 elections.
So you are saying that the issue is our transmission, but what about voter apathy? For Nigerians who are listening to you, watching you, do you believe they will still want to go and cast their votes? Do you think this opposition party or the opposition parties truly stand a chance going into the 2027 elections?
All these things I have mentioned, the system might be flawed, the laws might be flawed, but if citizens decide to come out en masse to ensure that they vote, ensure that they protect their votes, ensure that they do the right thing, I don't see where anybody can rig their elections or change the mandates that they want to give to whoever they've decided to give the mandate to. But that's not all. I also think that we still have an opportunity to amend the Electoral Act. So if citizens are given to a free, credible elections, what they ought to do now is to begin to look out for their House of Reps members and their senators and say, listen, we need an amendment of Section 60, subsection 3. We also need an amendment of Section 63 to ensure that the only materials that are used for the elections are materials that have security in those materials, as opposed to creating an avenue for incidence forms. And I think that is where the real election begins. This is where citizens need to push for what they want to see in the 2027 elections. It is not about going to the election, to the polling units on the election day and thinking that you will effect the kind of change you want. The change that Nigerians should demand begins now. The change that Nigerians want begins now with the Electoral Act, because the Electoral Act is the one that practically guides the entire electoral process. It is what gives the INEC opportunity to conduct a free or fair elections, or an election that is marred with malpractices.
And one of the things that Nigerians have complained about when it comes to casting their votes is the issue of security, whether it's at the gubernatorial elections, the presidential elections. Nigerians have said they're not safe, they're not sure their votes are going to count, they're not sure if they're truly going to be protected. And we have the Inspector General of Police, who's a former aide of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who has been retained past his retirement age, and the judiciary is constantly under scrutiny. And again, INEC's neutrality comes up in question. So what are 2 or 3 things that must be done now? Like, you've already mentioned the amendment of the Electoral Act, but what can be done by citizens? What can be done by this government to ensure that we have credible elections that are fair and are transparent, and that will encourage Nigerians to go out en masse to vote?
I think, first of all, like I mentioned, is the Electoral Act. Then secondly, I think there has to be consistent pressure on the INEC chairman, either because the INEC, if I were the INEC chairman, for example, I would have resigned my position as an INEC chairman, because currently Nigerians do not have faith in the leadership of INEC for various reasons, for maybe what happened on Twitter and what have you. From the moment he took over the INEC position or was nominated as INEC chairman, there was no faith in him. They said he was one of the lawyers for the president during the Election Petition Tribunal case. Now, if I were the INEC chairman, I would save myself and just resign. So Nigerian citizens need to mount that pressure to ensure that the INEC chairman either leaves, or we put enough checks and balances, enough checks in place to ensure that Nigerians have a credible elections. For the IG of police, I don't think that the president can choose, anybody can choose for the president who he wants to work with. The president can decide to work with anybody as far that he trusts. It is about the trust that he has in him and the trust he has in his capacity to do what is right and to protect the Nigerian people. But I think that for the elections, as far as the elections is concerned, INEC chairman needs to accept some form of responsibility and either resign his position or do certain things that would guarantee and restore the confidence of Nigerians in his leadership capacity as the INEC chairman.
So beyond the presidential race, because that tends to get the attention of a lot of Nigerians, what about the House of Assembly, the Senate, gubernatorial elections? What are some factors that will shape these elections, and what should Nigerians be mindful of?
So some of the biggest factors that is going to shape these elections, I mean, there are quite a lot. First of all, is poverty, hunger, cost of rising cost of food items and products, right? The cost of living in Nigeria is extremely high. It's extremely high rather, and everything is really going up. Being a Nigerian right now in Nigeria is very tough. And I think those are the things that will determine the elections. That is what's going to be on the ballot. We are talking about taxes. We are talking about the high cost of buying petrol right now, electricity tariff, cost of buying food in the market, and all these things. These are the things that are going to determine the elections, because at the end of the day, the presidential elections and the senatorial elections and the House of Reps elections are all going to happen on the same day. And if they are going to happen on the same day, all of them will be on the ballot, and this is what is going to determine whether the elections...
Thank you very much, Marty. Sorry, I had to jump in there, but sadly we're out of time, and thank you for your contributions.